Okay, microecon students, here's another video for Unit 2. This one is dealing with a table for a firm producing under perfect competition. It's a short-run table, and it deals with how we do the cost and revenue formulas, how we apply the short-run shutdown rule, and how we apply the general optimization rule using numbers. So let's go to screen share, and let's go ahead and open up the table here. And what we have here is a little reminder of the formulas. Total cost equals fixed plus variable cost. Average variable cost is variable cost divided by quantity. Average total cost is total cost divided by quantity, and marginal cost is the change in the total cost divided by the change in the quantity, where J is current row and J minus 1 is previous row. Now let's talk about completing the table here. I don't really have to put fixed costs in a column. I could just have said at the side of the table, hey, fixed cost is $1,800 always. And notice even at 0 units or 165 units or every value in between, fixed costs are always the same. Well, the reason is simple. Fixed cost is independent of production amounts. So no matter how much or how little you produce, the fixed cost is the same. Now notice when the firm shuts down at 0 units, the variable cost is $0.00. However, as the output increases, so does variable cost. Well, that's because variable costs directly depend upon quantity of output. Remember, if it directly depends upon it, when quantity gets bigger, so does variable cost. Now, the first couple of rows, I should say, for total cost are very easy. Take column 2, add column 3, or in other words, add $1,800 to all the variable cost entries. So $1,800 plus $0 is equal to $1,800 and 0 cents. $1,800 plus $750 is equal to $2,550 and 0 cents. And $1,800 plus $1,350 is equal to $3,150 and 0 cents. Class, please make a note about formatting. You have to have a dollar sign on the left. Every last entry in the table must have that dollar sign. You have to have 2 decimals. If it's whole dollars, they're both zeros. If you get a string of decimals, which can happen with those averages, you round to the nearest second decimal place, which means you look at the third decimal place. If it's 5 or larger, round up the second. If it's less than 5, do not round up the second. There's no such thing as rounding down. The thing is, through the magic of Excel and having already done these calculations in advance, if you don't believe they're correct, check them. Use your calculator and follow behind them. These are the rest of the values for total cost. Now, let's move on to the next item here, the average variable cost. I want you to notice that average variable and average total cost are both blocked out for 0 units. Well, look at the formula. Variable cost divided by quantity would mean you divide by 0. Oops, can't do that with real numbers. And so the average variable and average total costs are undefined at 0 units. You have to have positive production to have an average. So variable cost is column 3, quantity is column 2. 750 divided by 15 is equal to 50, but remember this is a cost, it's $50 and 0 cents. The second value, $1,350 divided by 30 units. Again, this is a cost, so it's dollars and cents always. That's $45 and 0 cents. And then one more, $1,800 divided by 45 units, is equal to $40 and 0 cents. Now, don't assume this keeps going down by $5 every time. I promise you it will not. Students should use their calculators and calculate every last value. Well, I'm going to make a couple of comments here. Around 90 units, your calculator would actually say 28.333333333, and it would keep on going forever. The thing is, you don't have fractional cents. So rounding to the nearest penny would make that $28, and 33 cents. Now, some of these other values might be rounded up or rounded down depending upon the third decimal place, but just be careful with that. Okay, whole dollars always has 2 decimals, they're both zeros. The other ones round to the nearest penny. Now, remember the short-run shutdown rule requires that we compare P star to minimum average variable cost. All that minimum means is the smallest. And if you go through this table, you'll find that the smallest average variable cost value is, in fact, $28. I don't know why I keep wanting to say 38. $28.33. And so we're going to highlight that. Okay, so we got that handy. I'm also going to highlight this row up here. This first row that I'm highlighting has Q star equal to 0 units. That is what you call the shutdown level. When a firm shuts down, it produces and sells nothing. So the thing is, when a firm shuts down, quantity of output is 0 units, and its total cost equals the fixed cost. It's kind of nice how that works. Again, we're just highlighting these for reference because we're going to need them later on. Okay, well, the next calculation is the average total cost. Column 4 is total cost. Column 1 is quantity. We have to start with the second row. $2,550 divided by 15 units is the first average total cost, which is $170.00. $3,150 divided by 30 units, that is the next average total cost, and that's equal to $105.00. So everything here in column 6 is basically column 4, total cost, divided by column 1, which is quantity of output. Now, the first couple of entries are nice, and they stop at dollar signs, so they're even. But once you get to 90 units, you start having the strings of decimals show up, and you have to round. One little comment here about this one I've highlighted. At 135 units, your calculator would show average total cost is 45.5555555, going on forever. Round the second decimal place. Since the third is 5 or larger, you round up the second to 6, $45.56. Now, I'm also going to do one other thing here, and that is I'm going to highlight this value for average total cost. This is, if you take a good look here, the minimum, our smallest value for average total cost. And the reason why we're highlighting it is when we finally decide we're going to produce, we need to be able to make a scratch comparison to determine if we make an economic profit or not. And so if we produce, like if the price is bigger than $28.33, we are producing. If it's also less than $45.00 for this table, let me emphasize, we would produce at an economic loss. And if it was bigger than $45.00, we would produce at an economic profit. This has to deal with the fact that you could calculate total cost if you wanted to as average total cost times quantity. But of course, we don't do that with this table. We have fixed and variable cost after all. But the thing is, price times quantity is total revenue. Average total cost times quantity can be total cost. When the price is bigger than the average total cost, you have a positive dollar value times the quantity for that difference, and that leads to a profit. If price is less than the average total cost, it's a negative value times the quantity, which will lead to a negative cash flow. And so the math works out very nicely for our scratch calculation. Now, the last value is the marginal cost, and the marginal cost is a little more complicated. I'm going to start with the first value, and I'm highlighting two separate rows, the first row and the second row. Total cost in row 2 is $2,550. Total cost in row 1 is $1,800. $2,550 minus $1,800 is $750. 15 minus 0 is equal to 15 units. Okay, Q2 minus Q1. So 750 divided by 15 units, coincidentally, is equal to $50. It's not going to necessarily equal to average variable cost at first. It's just a coincidence. Just do the math and don't worry about it. Let's talk about one more calculation. 3,150 minus 2,550. Whoopsie, I didn't mean to do that, y'all. Okay. Divided by 30 minus 15. Remember, total cost in row 3 minus total cost in row 2. It's always current row minus one row previous for the total cost change, and current row minus one row previous for the quantity change. 3,150 minus 2,550 is $600. 30 minus 15 is 15 units. $60 divided by 15 units is equal to $40.00. This is the method you use for calculating marginal cost. I'll do one more here real quick. 3,600 minus 3,150 is $450. 45 minus 30 is 15 units. 450 divided by 15 is equal to $30.00. And so, again, through the magic of Excel and time compression, these are the rest of the marginal cost values. Now, again, I know these values are correct, but you need to know these are correct. You should go through and do all these calculations with your calculator, audit them. That means check behind them and verify them. Now, one last thing I'm about to locate is something called the firm's short-run supply curve. On our previous slideshow, it states that for a table, it's all the values of marginal costs that increase as Q gets bigger. Well, that seems to start at 75 and goes to 165 units, but hang on. It's not just the ones that increase as Q gets bigger. They must also be bigger than the minimum average variable cost. So in other words, they have to be bigger than $28.33. So the first value of MC, where it's increasing as Q increases, is $30. That's bigger than, $28.33. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this in kind of a light green, because this is our short-run supply curve. I'm going to highlight one more thing as well. I have to highlight the associated quantities. Remember, price and quantity supplied are associated with each other in that relationship. And so starting from 105 units and a price of $30 and continuing up to 165 units and a price of $70, that is the individual businesses, this single firm's short run supply curve. So the thing is, if we get to the point where we are producing, like say the price is $35, which is bigger than 28.33, we would have to choose a quantity on that marginal cost curve where MR is equal to MC, and it would have to be somewhere between 105 and 165 units. It could not be anything below that, because that's the case where the business would lose too much money and the business would shut down. All right. So with a complete table, we're able to go on and solve the next part of the problem. Question A asks for, and is based upon each of the three prices, does the firm produce or shut down in the short run? Well, remember, if P star is strictly less than minimum average variable cost, and that's $28.33 for this firm, it'll shut down. And if price is bigger than $45, or bigger, pardon me, than $28.33, the firm will produce. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, and please forgive me, there's going to be a bunch of scrolling in this problem. I'm going to go ahead and insert a table with 3 columns, so that way I can answer each price separately, or each question separately. And so for this one, it's going to be for P star equal to $30.00. This next one will be for P star equal to $45.00 or $40.00. I apologize, copying it wrong. And for the last one, P star is equal to $60.00. Okay. And so let's talk about these questions here. Question A, does a firm produce or shut down the short run? And the answer is firm shuts down. Reason why? P star is strictly less than minimum average variable cost. If it makes you feel better or helps you remember it, you could write firm shuts down because P star, which is equal to $30, equal to $20.00. I spoke wrong. It should be 20. I apologize. P star, which is equal to $20.00, is strictly less than the minimum average variable cost, okay, which is $28, excuse me, and 33 cents. Okay. So it's a good idea to refresh yourself. I'd prefer you write something like that on your paper. Okay. Now for $40 is clearly bigger than $28.33. So firm produces, okay. And the reason why is P star, which is equal to $40, excuse me, and 0 cents, is greater than minimum ABC, which is $28.33. $60 is bigger than $40, so we have the same answer here. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to borrow from this one, copy and paste, and just change what needs to be changed there. And that should be changed to there. Okay. So that's question A, and that part's pretty easy here, but you have to have a complete table to solve this. Now, the second question is, does a firm make an economic profit or an economic loss in the short run? Let's start by talking about what happens when the firm shuts down. When the firm shuts down, it produces no output. So at 0 units of output, $20 times 0 units is $0 for total revenue. But the total cost is not 0. Remember, when the firm shuts down, the total cost is equal to fixed cost. That's $1,800. So 0 minus $1,800 is a negative cash flow. And so the firm makes an economic loss because it shuts down. The moment you know a firm shuts down, there's no debate or discussion. That firm is making an economic loss. Now, $40 and $60 the firm produces. This is why I highlighted the minimum average total cost. $40, bigger than $28.33. The firm produces, but less than $45. At its lowest value, the firm is going to spend $45 to produce a unit of output, but it's only going to earn $40 for each unit it sells. So if a firm is earning less money per unit than the smallest value it's going to spend to produce a unit, it's always going to lose money. You might say, well, then why aren't they shutting down? They're going to have a smaller loss at $40 by producing than shutting down is the reason why. Remember, nobody can exit the market in the short run. It's either produce or shut down, and you could produce at a profit, you could produce at a loss, or if you shut down, you're going to make a loss. So firm makes an economic profit because P star, which is equal to $40.00, strictly greater or excuse me, strictly less than minimum average total cost, yikes, okay, which is equal to $45.00. Okay. I was using an abbreviation for because, just so I can save some space. All right. Now, let's talk about $60. $60 is bigger than 28.33, and it's bigger than 45. This means this business is going to be making more money per unit than its lowest average total cost. That means an economic profit is possible. And this is, and you guys didn't correct me. Shame on you. That should be economic loss. I said loss. I typed profit. My apologies. I hope you guys have watched this far. Firm makes an economic profit because B star equal to $60.00 greater than minimum average total cost, which is $45.00. Okay. All righty. So notice, when a firm shuts down, it's going to make an economic loss. No debate or discussion. If a firm produces, but the price is strictly less than the minimum average total cost, it produces at a loss. If the firm produces and the price is bigger than the minimum average total cost, it produces at a profit. Now, let's talk about part C. When the firm shuts down, I repeat, when the firm shuts down, you cannot use general optimization rule. Remember, general optimization says if the firm produces, which means if it shuts down, you cannot use this rule. The definition for shutting down tells you Q star, which is optimal quantity to the business, and pardon my typing issues here, is equal to 0 units. And yes, you have to say Q star is equal to 0 units because it says determine optimal level of output in units. If you don't state it, you're not answering the question, and it cannot be stated in another part of the problem. It has to be stated first. Then it says to calculate total revenue. Well, total revenue is equal to price times quantity. We already learned this back in a previous unit. So P star times Q star, that's going to equal to $20.00 times 0 units. And yes, you have to show this calculation, which is equal to $0.00. A total cost, we do not have to calculate a second time. Remember, we have this entire column of total cost. And for 0 units, total cost is equal to $1,800.00. Let's put that one in there next. And so, economic losses. First things first, we need to insert our symbol, and the symbol is going to be the Greek letter pi. And the thing's got to put a negative sign in front of it. Reason why it's negative, it's a loss, remember. Economic losses, negative pi is the symbol. Well, total revenue minus total cost is always the profit loss formula. So that's $0.00 minus $1,800.00. And that is equal to, and here is where we have to format things correctly. No minus sign. This is negative currency. You have a red around parentheses, and everything that represents negative currency is in red ink. So red round parentheses, $1, $1,800, decimal point 00, close red parentheses. That, students, is how you show an economic loss. And I'm just going to change the font because I do not like this Calibri font. Okay. So the economic losses, red ink round parentheses, $1,800.00. All right. So that's how we handle the situation when the firm was shutting down for a loss. Okay. And this is all the answers for that. Now, let's talk about the firm producing here. And I'm just spacing this out a bit just so it's a little easier to read. That's what I'm doing here. You'll be doing this by hand, of course. So since the firm is producing, here we will use general optimization. It says if the firm produces, the firm chooses to produce quantity Q star on the short run supply curve where MR is equal to MC. Because this firm is under perfect competition, P star is equal to MR. And so y'all probably noticed I didn't mention MR in here because I told you it's perfect competition. P star has to equal MR for perfect competition. So when we work with $40 and $60 as the firm is producing, we have to remember that the price is equal to marginal revenue. This is not D, this is C. All righty. MR equals MC is equal to $40 on the short run supply curve here. That corresponds to 120 units. We are not doing 30 units. 30 units is not on the short run supply curve, and that would be maximum loss. Optimization means best result under the given condition. That means if there's a loss, it needs to be minimized. If there's a profit, it must be maximized. Since this is a loss, it's going to be minimized And so Q star, when price is $40, is equal to 120 units. And then we calculate total revenue. Total revenue is equal to $40.00 multiplied times 120 units. Little point of order here, y'all. You must, I repeat, you must format these numbers all the time. Never drop your formatting, not even when you're doing the arithmetic, because this stuff here is very short, one step. So $4,800 is the total revenue. Now for total cost, remember column 4 has has all has called the total costs, and the row with 120 units has that. And so $5,400 is the total cost. So let's put that in there. TC is equal to $5,400. And so we still have an economic loss. So I'm just going to borrow this formula from the last area. Why should I have to reinvent the wheel after all? Okay. Control C, Control V. Now in this case, it's $4,800 minus $5,400. I'm going to put a little space over here, equals to, and then once again, red ink round parentheses are mandatory. Okay, open pair and $, $600.00, close pair. Notice when the price is $40.00, the firm is still losing money, but by producing, it's going to lose $600. If the firm had shut down, it would have lost $1,800. And obviously, I don't like losing money, but if my choices are only two choices I can do is either lose 600 or lose 800, I'll choose the choice, or 1,800, pardon me. I'll choose the choice that's going to make me lose less money. Thank you very much. Class, the reason why we didn't choose 90 units is that firm would have lost a heck of a lot more than $800 if it had used MARCL MC. That rule says you have to produce to use it. And since you're not producing any of these cases here, for those other values, you cannot use it when the firm shuts down. It has to be producing in order to be able to, use general optimization. And this thing in Word is really making me frigging nuts. Pardon me, y'all. Okay. I'm just trying to hit the return key so I can space this thing out a little bit better. Okay. Now, for price equal to $60, MR is also $60 because it's perfect competition. MR is equal to MC is equal to $60 when you have 150 units. Okay, and that's not D, that is C. So Q star, when price is $60, is 150 units. Total revenue is equal to $60 times 150 units. Okay, that is equal to $9,000.00. Total cost for 150 units is $7,050.00. And remember, the total cost is always coming from the table. Go up here to the table here for just a moment, everybody. Okay, column 4 is total cost. 150 units is our quantity. $7,050.00. That is, I repeat, that is, okay, the total cost. And pardon me while I backtrack and fix a couple of things here. Please excuse me, y'all. This is one of those mornings where we have a few hiccups, but it's not enough to restart the video. At least not yet. Okay. So this time around, we have an economic profit. So I'm going to still borrow this, but notice the minus sign is not going to be in our answer here. Profit and loss uses the same formula, TR minus TC, total revenue minus total cost. So we got $9,000.00 minus, $7,050.00. And put that comma in there. There it is, okay? Folks, this time around, since we have a profit, there's no red ink. Profits are in the black. Profits also do not, I repeat, do not have any parentheses. The parentheses is for people that are colorblind to know that the numbers are negative when it's money, and the red is for the people that are not colorblind to know that it's negative. You do not use a minus sign with currency to denote a negative value, and the only negative currency value you will see is an economic loss. Notice the costs and revenues are all in the black. They are positive. Only the losses are in red ink round parentheses. Only they are negative. So for $60, the economic profit is equal to $1,950.00. So let me just wrap this up for y'all now. This is not a hard problem, but it consumes some time. Obviously, doing the math formulas is a big piece of it, and formatting as well. But the other piece is correctly applying those comparisons. P star versus minimum ABC to produce or shut down, and remembering what it means to shut down. P star versus minimum average total cost to determine profit or loss when producing. And remembering that when the firm shuts down, Q star is 0 units and using the data from that first row of the table to determine total costs. Again, not a hard problem, but one that eats up some time. Problem number 4 in the practice problem is one that I'm expecting everybody to work and bring to class and provide results for that I can grade. And so make sure that after having viewed this video and having taken notes that you've worked with students.